The first time Nora Hayes hears the words, Mrs. Damon Sterling, they do not sound romantic. They sound like a verdict. She is standing under a crystal chandelier in a marble City Hall annex that was rented out and dressed up to look like a private chapel. There are flowers everywhere, white roses and silver eucalyptus, arrangements that cost more than her monthly rent. Cameras are not allowed inside, but someone has still tucked a lens into every corner. Wolf has a way of bending rules. The officiant clears his throat and smiles too wide. We are gathered here today to witness the marriage of Damon Arthur Sterling and Nora Elise Hayes, he says. Nora feels the weight of a dozen eyes on her. The Sterling family lawyer, the head of Damon's foundation, 2 board members who look allergic to joy, no bridesmaids, no guests who are here because they love her. Everyone in this room knows this is not a love story, except maybe the elderly clerk who stamps the license. Damon stands beside her, tall and controlled in a charcoal suit that fits as if the fabric grew on him. The tabloids call him the Ice King of Wall Street. Up close, he looks less like ice and more like stone that has learned not to crack. His jaw is set, his blue eyes focused on the officiant, not on her. Do you take this man to be your lawfully wedded husband? The officiant asks. Nora's heart bangs against her ribs. She thinks of the contract in her purse. 15 pages. 1-year term. A wire transfer that would erase her father's medical debt and get her little brother out of the basement apartment that floods every time it rains. She thinks of the line Damon's attorney pointed to twice. Parties acknowledge this is a civil arrangement and not a romantic union. She thinks, very clearly, I am marrying a billionaire stranger to save the people I love. Her voice sounds distant when she answers. I do. If you are watching this and wondering how someone ends up in a fake marriage with a billionaire, this is where you might expect the story to end. The dress, the ring, the expensive smile. But this is only the surface. The real story started 3 months earlier, on a much grittier floor. 3 months before she said, I do. Nora is on her knees in the back of a hotel ballroom, scrubbing champagne off industrial carpet at 1 a.m. The New York skyline glitters beyond the tall windows, but she only sees the stain in front of her and the clock on the wall. Her shift is supposed to end at midnight. The manager has already told her she can clock out when the floor stops, looking embarrassed. Nora works as a freelance florist assistant by day and a banquet staff extra by night. Her body is always tired, her back always sore, but the money halves her father's overdue hospital bill every month, and that matters more than her feet. Someone opens a door hard enough to make the exit bar slam. Voices spill into the hallway. Do not care if the board is nervous, a man is saying. If my grandfather wanted a puppet, he should have left the company to a marionette, not to me. The name on the staff schedule said the event upstairs was a memorial gala for Arthur Sterling, the self-made billionaire who built Sterling Capital from nothing. That makes the angry voice Damon Sterling, the grandson who just inherited the empire and every vulture circling it. Nora keeps her head down. Rich people like to forget staff can hear. Another voice answers, lower, practiced. The will is very clear, the lawyer says. If you are not married by the end of the fiscal year, controlling interest passes to your cousin. The board will not support that. You need a spouse. On paper. Soon. There is a pause. Nora can almost hear Damon clench his teeth. I am not picking a wife like I pick a stock, he says. Swipe right on a pedigree and hope she does not care more about my last name than the work I do. The men move on. The door swings shut. The hallway is quiet again, except for Nora's scrubbing. She does not know it yet, but that sentence will circle back to her life like a boomerang. 2 hours later, the ballroom is a graveyard of empty glasses and crumpled napkins. Nora is helping stack chairs near the far wall when someone bumps into her from behind. The metal leg of a chair catches her calf. Her hand jerks. A tray of glassware tilts and rains down, sparkling and shattering. For one frozen. Second, silence. Then a hard, expensive voice from across the room. What happened? She looks up. Damon Sterling is there, tie loosened, jacket off, sleeves rolled up. He looks exactly like he did in the magazine covers her father used to read in waiting rooms. Only in person there is a tension in his shoulders that the glossy paper never caught. Nora straightens, cheeks burning. It was my fault, she says quickly. I lost my grip. The manager rushes over, already nodding, already ready to throw her under a bus she did not drive. I am so sorry, Mr. Sterling, he gushes. She is new. It will not happen again. You can dock it from her pay. Nora opens her mouth to protest. These glasses probably cost more than she makes in a week. Her rent cannot survive this. Damon's gaze moves from the broken glass to her face. For a moment, his expression shifts. Not pity. Calculation. Leave it, he says to the manager. Accidents happen. Get housekeeping to sweep it. She can go. The manager nods again, relieved to be dismissed. Yes, sir. Nora, you are done for the night. Clock out. She does, hands shaking, and goes home to her basement apartment with a sore calf and a heart full of frustration. She has no idea that someone took her name from the schedule and added it to a different list. A week later, an email arrives in her inbox from a Sterling Capital address. We would like to discuss a short-term employment opportunity that could significantly improve your family's financial situation. It is signed, in clean digital ink, Damon A. Sterling. If you are curious how a broken tray of glasses turns into a proposal for a fake marriage contract that could change every life it touches, make sure you stay with this story and subscribe so you do not miss a single twist in this billionaire romance. Now, let us go back to our main character, Nora. Nora reads the email 3 times before she believes it is real. The subject line is simple. Opportunity. The sender line is not. Damon A. Sterling. There is no way to mistake that name. Her thumb hovers over the delete icon, then over reply. Her stomach knots. We would like to discuss a short-term employment opportunity that could significantly improve your family's financial situation. Short-term. Family. Those words are not random. They are sharp. Someone has done their homework. She spends the afternoon at the flower shop, hands deep in buckets of cold water and stems, trying not to think about it. Her father's latest hospital bill waits in an unopened envelope on the counter at home. Her brother has stopped talking about college because the numbers hurt too much. By the time her shift ends, the email is still sitting there, glowing on her cracked screen like a dare. At midnight, in the dim light of her kitchen, she finally types back. Thank you for reaching out. I am available to meet and hear more details. She deletes 3 sentences that sound too desperate and 1 that sounds too angry, then hits send before she can overthink it. The reply comes 8 minutes later. Sterling Capital, downtown headquarters. Tomorrow, 10 o'clock in the morning. Ask for me at reception. The next day, Nora stands in front of a glass tower that looks like it grew straight out of the sidewalk. It throws the morning sun back at the city in sheets of white light. Inside, the lobby ceilings are so high that sound seems to disappear before it hits them. People move with purpose, key cards flashing, shoes clicking on marble that does not have a single scuff. Her reflection in the glass doors looks like it wandered in from a different movie. Thrift store blazer, plain black pants, hair pulled into a low twist she did herself. She checks in at the reception desk and watches the security guard's eyes flick to a screen only he can see. Mr. Sterling will see you on 42, he says. Elevators to your left. Her ears pop on the way up. The doors open into a quieter world. The carpet is thick. The walls are lined with framed photos of buildings, deals signed, smiling men in suits shaking hands. At the end of the hallway, a glass door bears his name. Damon Sterling looks up when she steps into his office. The room is all clean lines and views. The city stretches out behind him through floor-to-ceiling windows, a grid of possibility and pressure. You came, he says. It is not a question. Nora nods, fingers tight around the strap of her bag. You asked, she answers. You said it was about my family. He gestures toward the chair opposite his desk. Please sit, Miss Hayes. She sits. Her knees feel unsteady. There is a folder already on his desk. Her name is printed on the tab. The sight of it makes her skin prickle. You dropped a tray of very expensive glassware at my grandfather's memorial, he says. Most people would have blamed the table, the crowd, the universe. You did not. You took responsibility. You let your manager threaten your paycheck, and you still kept your head up. Nora swallows. I did not have much of a choice, she says. You always have a choice, Damon replies. The question is whether you can live with it. He flips the folder open and turns it so she can see. Hospital invoices. Payment records. Her father's name. Her family's address. The part-time wages from the flower shop. The banquet checks. The air leaves her lungs. You had no right to dig into my life like this, she says, heat rising in her face. I had every right if I intended to offer you something that touches every part of it, he says calmly. I needed to know who you are when everything goes wrong. She wants to walk out. She wants to grab the folder and shove it back at him. But the numbers on those bills pull at her like gravity. What do you want from me? She asks. He leans back, studies her as if he is deciding whether to invest. You heard part of a conversation in that hallway, he says. The will is very clear. If I am not married by the end of the fiscal year, control of Sterling Capital goes to my cousin, who cares more about champagne lists than child hunger. The board wants stability. A wife in the family photo. A ring on my hand. They do not care what happens inside the walls of that marriage. Nora stares at him. So you want me to pretend to be in love with you for a few months so you can keep your company, she says slowly. He does not flinch. I want you to enter into a legal marriage with me for 1 year, he says. In exchange, your father's medical debt is eliminated. Your brother's education is fully funded. You receive a sum that will allow you to start over wherever you wish when the year ends. He taps the folder with one finger. All of it will be in writing. There will be no physical requirements. There will be no expectation of emotional anything. You will attend events. You will live in my home. We will look married from the outside. But this is a contract, Ms. Hayes, not a love story. The words land heavily in the quiet office. Nora looks at the papers between them, at his unreadable face, at the skyline beyond his shoulder. She hears monitors beeping in hospital rooms. She hears her brother washing dishes in a sink that backs up twice a week. You really think you can put a timeline on something like this? She says. 1 year on. Forever off. I think it is better to have a clear end date than to pretend forever is something I can promise, he says. Her laugh sounds wrong in the sleek room. And what happens to me when the clock runs out? She asks. You walk away with what we agreed on, Damon says. No strings. No claims. No more debt. She sits back, heart pounding so hard she can feel it in her throat. This is insane, she thinks. This is a lifeline. This is wrong. This is my only chance. He slides a thick envelope across the desk. Take this home, he says. Read every word. Have someone you trust look at it. If you say no, we forget this conversation. If you say yes, we begin. She stares at the envelope, at her own name written neatly on the front. In a city where powerful men throw money at problems, Damon Sterling has just thrown the most dangerous thing of all at hers. A way out, with a price tag she cannot yet calculate. The envelope sits in the middle of Nora's kitchen table like it is ticking. Her apartment is quiet except for the hum of the old refrigerator and the distant honk of traffic 3 floors up. There is a faint damp smell from the corner where the wall always leaks when it rains. On the table, next to a chipped mug and last week's grocery list, her name is written in clean, confident ink. Nora Elise Hayes. She turns the envelope over in her hands. Sterling Capital paper. Heavy. Expensive. The kind of stationery that suggests anything inside it will matter more than it should. Her father's cough echoes from the next room, followed by the soft thud of him setting a glass down. The hospital had sent another reminder that morning. Further delay in payment may result in interruption of services. They write it like a policy. She reads it like a threat. She slides her thumb under the flap and opens it. The contract is 15 pages, just like Damon said. The first page lays out the big picture in cold, professional language. Proposal for temporary marital arrangement between Damon Arthur Sterling and Nora Elise Hayes. Term, 12 months from date of legal marriage. Her eyes skim down. Purpose, to provide public and familial stability in accordance with the terms of the Sterling family estate. Every word is precise. None of them are soft. She keeps reading. Section 2. Compensation and benefits. All existing medical debt for Mr. Daniel Hayes to be paid in full within 30 days of contract execution. Full tuition and living expenses for Matthew Hayes for the duration of a 4-year undergraduate program. Lump sum payment to Ms. Hayes upon completion of term. The numbers make her head swim. They are more money than she has seen in her entire life, lined up neatly with commas like someone has casually dropped them onto paper. Then the rules begin. Section 3. Conduct and boundaries. Clause 1. The parties agree to reside together in Mr. Sterling's primary residence for the duration of the term. Clause 2. The parties agree to attend social, familial, and corporate events as a married couple no fewer than 6 times per quarter. Clause 3. The parties agree that this arrangement is a civil contract and not a romantic union. There is no expectation or requirement of physical intimacy. Clause 4. Ms. Hayes will not interfere in corporate decision-making at Sterling Capital. Clause 5. Both parties agree to maintain confidentiality regarding the contractual nature of the marriage. Disclosure outside a mutually agreed-upon circle will be considered breach. She reads that last line twice. The letters seem to blur. Breach. What happens if someone breaks it? She murmurs, more to the paper than to herself. She flips to the back. Termination. Penalties. There it is. In the event of material breach by Ms. Hayes, all financial obligations under this agreement are null and void, and Ms. Hayes may be liable for damages incurred by Mr. Sterling, including reputational harm. Her chest tightens. She pulls out her phone and scrolls to a contact she has not used in months. Lisa Morales, friend from community college, the one who actually finished the paralegal program. It rings twice. Nora. Lisa sounds surprised. Hey, are you all right? Hypothetically, Nora says, gripping the phone. If someone was offered a contract to do something huge and weird and life-changing, what should they look for? There is a pause. That is vague, Lisa says. Is this about a job or about you selling a kidney in an alley? Job, Nora says quickly. Sort of. Can you come over? I will buy you takeout. 20 minutes later, they are both at the table, cartons of lo mein pushed to one side. Lisa has her reading glasses on and Damon's contract in front of her. Her brows knit as she turns pages. This is thorough, Lisa says finally. You are sure this is real? Nora nods. Unfortunately, she says. Lisa taps the paper. Okay, she says. Good news first. He is not trying to trick you into giving up rights to your organs or your future children. There is no secret clause about signing over your soul. The terms are clear. 1 year. Very specific benefits. Very specific expectations. And the bad news? Nora asks. Lisa sighs. The bad news is that you would be stepping into his world with almost no legal leverage beyond what is written right here, she says. He has lawyers. He has a board. He has an image to protect. If anything goes sideways and they decide you are the problem, they can drag your name through the mud and call it damage control. Nora swallows. What about coercion? She asks. Is this legal? For someone with that much power to put something like this in front of someone like me? It is gross, Lisa says. But it is not necessarily illegal. He is not holding a gun to your head. He is offering you something you can technically refuse. A court would probably say you had a choice. A choice. That word again. You could say no, Lisa continues. You stay here. You keep grinding. Maybe your dad's hospital sends him home early. Maybe your brother gets more loans and spends the next 30 years paying them off. Nora looks. Around the kitchen. The peeling paint. The stack of bills. The worn line on the floor where chairs have scraped for years. And if I say yes, she says, then you marry a man you barely know, Lisa says. You put on a show for his world for 12 months. You get your family out from under this. You walk away with enough money to never scrub another banquet floor again. Nora leans back, staring at the ceiling. This sounds like the part in the movie where the heroine makes the obviously bad decision, she says. Lisa reaches across the table and squeezes her wrist. In movies, they can cut to the happy montage, she says gently. In real life, every choice costs something. You just have to decide what you can afford to lose. Later that night, Nora stands in the doorway of her father's room. He is asleep, face slack, breathing shallow but steady. The harsh fluorescent light of the hospital has been replaced by the soft yellow glow of a thrift store lamp, but the worry lines on his forehead have not faded. She imagines handing him a letter from the billing department that says, paid in full. She imagines telling her brother he does not have to pick up more double shifts, that he can sign up for classes without wondering how many loans they will need. She also imagines standing next to Damon in rooms full of people who will look at her and see a contract before they see a person. Her chest feels tight. In the morning, she takes the subway back downtown. The Sterling Tower rises into a clear blue sky, unbothered by the chaos on the streets below. She walks through security, rides the elevator to 42, and steps into Damon's office before she can change her mind. He is at his desk, sleeves rolled, tie off, as if he never left. You have read it, he says. It is not a question. Yes, Nora says. Her voice does not shake. I have questions. He gestures to the chair. Ask, he says. Why me? She says first. You could marry someone from your world. Someone who already knows which fork to use at those dinners. Someone who will not make your board nervous. He studies her. Because someone from my world would come with their own agenda, he says. You come with a very clear one. You want your family safe. You are not here for my last name. You are here for the line items in section 2. The bluntness of it makes her flinch, but it is not untrue. And what happens if you decide halfway through that you are done with this? She asks. That I am too much trouble. That the act is not worth it. Then we follow the exit clauses, he says. You still keep what has already been paid on your father's behalf. I would not take treatment away from a sick man to punish his daughter. He says it like a statement of fact, not a favor. Nora looks at him, at the contract on his desk, at the pen lying beside it. Think of it as a contract, he says quietly. That is all it is. She takes a breath that feels like it is scraping her ribs on the way in. It is not all it is, she says. It is also my life. He inclines his head. I know, he says. That is why I am asking instead of ordering. She steps forward. The room feels too bright, too high up, too full of possibilities she does not fully understand. Her hand hovers over the pen. 1 year. One last look at the life she has been living. One clear, terrifying leap towards something she cannot predict. Nora picks up the pen. As the ink of her name sinks into the heavy paper, she feels it. The moment a hypothetical future becomes a locked path. She has just agreed to become Mrs. Damon Sterling for exactly 12 months. In a marriage that promises nothing of love and everything of consequences. 3 days after Nora signs the contract, her life splits in two. There is the life that still smells like burnt coffee and floor cleaner, the one with the peeling paint and the landlord who knocks too loudly. And then there is the life that arrives in the form of a black car at the curb, a garment bag over the driver's arm, and a schedule that tells her exactly where to be and when. The morning of the wedding, Nora stands in front of the cracked mirror in her bathroom, holding the simple white dress up against her body. It is not a princess gown. It is clean and elegant, with a straight neckline and a skirt that schemes instead of flares. Someone from Damon's team had it delivered with a note that said only, "This will photograph well." Her father sits at the small kitchen table, oxygen tube in his nose, watching her with watery eyes. "You look like your mother did on our wedding day," he says softly. Nora's throat closes. This is not like that, she wants to say. This is a 12-month contract with a man who knows how to make a crisis into an asset. Instead, she forces a smile. It is just a civil ceremony, she says. Very practical. Her younger brother, Matthew, leans against the counter, arms folded. Practical does not usually come with a driver, he mutters. Are you sure you want to do this, Nora? She meets his eyes. I am sure that we cannot pay Dad's bills without help, she says. And they are paying them. All of them. That is real. I saw the receipts. He looks away first. His voice drops. Just do not let them treat you like you are part of the furniture, he says. You are not a prop. She memorizes his face in that moment, the fear and the pride braided together. At City Hall, everything moves quickly. Damon is already there when she arrives, standing beneath that cold chandelier, talking quietly with his lawyer. He turns when the door opens. For a second, his gaze pauses. There is something like surprise in it, then it is gone. Ms. Hayes, he says, you clean up well. High praise from someone whose shoes probably cost more than my entire wardrobe, she replies. One corner of his mouth lifts, almost a smile. Are you ready, he asks. No, she thinks. Yes, she says. The officiant reads the standard lines. Names. Legal phrases. The echo of, till death do you part, in a room where everyone knows they have already agreed on an end date. The ring he slides onto her finger is a plain band, heavy and cool. When it is over, there is a marriage certificate with their signatures, a handshake with the lawyer, and a brief, carefully neutral kiss that feels more like a seal on a document than a beginning. On the car ride to his building, the silence stretches. You can still change your mind about living at the penthouse, Damon says suddenly. The contract requires cohabitation, but there is more than one property. We could arrange something less intense. Nora looks out at the city moving around them. The people on the sidewalks who have no idea she has just stepped into a different orbit. I signed knowing what I was agreeing to, she says. Running now would make everything feel more like a trap than a choice. He studies her profile. Most people would take whatever distance they could get, he says. Most people did not grow up in a one-bedroom apartment, she answers. I am used to sharing space with other people's tempers. The elevator to his penthouse is private. No buttons, just a key card and a whoosh of motion. Her stomach flips as they rise. When the doors open, the first thing she sees is glass. Floor-to-ceiling windows on two sides, the city laid out like a lit map. The second thing she sees is how spotless everything is. No clutter, no family photos, no evidence that anyone actually lives here. This is home, Damon says simply. Nora steps inside, her thrift store suitcase looking like it has wandered into the wrong movie. A woman in a gray dress appears from the kitchen area, professional and composed. Mrs. Sterling, she says. I am Helena, house manager. Welcome. The title makes Nora flinch. Thank you, she manages. Helena gives her a tour. Office, guest rooms, a gym Nora will probably never use. At the end of the hall are two doors facing each other. This is Mr. Sterling's room, Helena says, indicating the one on the left. And this will be yours. Nora blinks. Separate rooms, she says. Damon's voice comes from behind her. That was in section 3, he says. No physical expectations. That includes where you sleep. It is easier this way. Easier. She is not sure for whom. She steps into her room. It looks like a luxurious hotel, all neutral tones and expensive softness. On the dresser is a small folder with her name on it. Inside is tomorrow's schedule. Breakfast with Damon and 2 board members. Fitting for gala dress. Lesson with media coach on how to answer personal questions with minimal actual information. At the bottom, in Valerie the lawyer's neat handwriting, there is one last line. Remember, your job is to look like you belong, even when they try to tell you that you do not. Nora sets the schedule down and looks at her reflection in the dark window. Mrs. Damon Sterling. For 1 year. On paper. She feels the ring on her finger, the contract in her veins, and something else she refuses to name starting to stir beneath all the rules. The first official morning as Mrs. Damon Sterling tastes like overbrewed coffee and nerves. Nora sits at the end of a long glass table in the penthouse dining room, hands wrapped around a mug she is too tense to drink from. The view behind Damon is ridiculous, all glittering skyline and blue sky, like a stock photo for success. The view in front of her is less pretty. 2 board members, flown in early under the polite excuse of breakfast, are watching her like she is a line item on a balance sheet. This is Leonard Briggs, Damon had said when they arrived. And this is Miriam Cho. They have been with Sterling Capital longer than I have been alive. Leonard is in his 60s, hair silver, tie perfect. Miriam is crisp and composed, with sharp eyes that miss nothing. Both have their phones face down beside their plates and the kind of posture that says they are used to being listened to. So, Leonard says now, stirring sugar into his coffee even though he has not tasted it yet. Nora, you do not mind if I call you Nora, do you? She smiles politely. It is my name, she says. I would prefer it to Mrs. Sterling, honestly. That still feels like it belongs to someone else. Miriam's mouth twitches, just a little. You will get used to it, Miriam says. The press certainly will. They love a new Mrs. Anything. Nora's spine stiffens. I am not here for the press, she says. I am here because Damon and I made an agreement. Leonard raises an eyebrow. An agreement, he repeats. That is a very modern way to talk about marriage. Across the table, Damon's fork pauses halfway to his mouth. His expression does not change, but Nora feels his attention shift to her fully. She hears the media coach's voice in her head from the session she had yesterday afternoon. Never talk about terms, the coach had said. Talk about values. People can argue numbers. It is harder to argue feelings. Nora takes a breath. We agree on what matters, she says carefully. Family. Stability. Using what we have to keep the people we care about safe. That is our agreement. Miriam studies her. And what did you do before you agreed to take on this role? Miriam asks. I know what the background checks say. I would like to hear you say it. Nora feels the old defensiveness rise, the scar tissue of 1,000 customers looking down at her. I arranged flowers, she says. And I served food. I worked with people on their best days and their worst days. I know how to read a room and how to keep things moving when everything behind the scenes is falling apart. Leonard lets out a low chuckle. From banquet staff to billionaire's wife, he says. That is quite a jump. Nora sets her mug down. With respect, she says, I am still staff. The job title is just different. I am here to make things smoother for this family in this company. I do not confuse that with ownership. Damon's gaze flicks to her, something unreadable in it. Miriam's eyes soften almost imperceptibly. We have had spouses before who made that mistake, Miriam says. Confusing access with power. It never ends well. Leonard looks at Damon. And you are certain you know what you are doing? He asks. The markets are jumpy. The will is very clear. We cannot afford a scandal right now because you decided to marry a pretty distraction with no understanding of our world. Nora feels that like a slap. Pretty distraction. Before she can answer, Damon speaks. I did not marry a distraction, he says evenly. I married someone who can sit at this table and tell you the truth without worrying about her stock options. That is more useful to me right now than another degree from a school with its own zip code. The room goes quiet for a heartbeat. Miriam leans back, giving Nora a longer look, the kind of look that recalculates. Tell me one thing you think we are all getting wrong, Miriam says. About this company. About this room. Nora hesitates. She remembers the coach again. Do not attack, the woman had said. Describe. Ask a question back. She looks at Leonard, at Miriam, at Damon. You talk a lot about stability, Nora says slowly. About keeping control in the family. But when you talk about risk, you talk like it is the worst thing that can happen. Leonard frowns. Is that not the point of risk management? He asks. Mitigating risk. Yes, Nora says. But where I come from, never taking a risk is its own kind of danger. You can spend your whole life protecting what you have and never notice that everything around you is rotting. Miriam's lips curve. Spoken like someone who has had to bet the rent money on a broken car, making it one more month, she says. Nora huffs out a breath. Something like that, she says. Damon sets his fork down. Leonard, Miriam, he says. You wanted to meet my wife. You wanted to see if she can handle a room like this. You have your answer. She will be at the charity gala tomorrow night. You can watch her work a real crowd there. Leonard glances at his watch. We will see, he says. The investors will not be as polite as we are. When they leave, the air in the room loosens. Nora exhales a breath she did not realize she was holding. You did not tell me this was an exam, she says. It is always an exam, Damon replies. You passed. She snorts. I did not realize there were grades, she says. He looks at her, really looks, as if he is seeing past the dress and the careful answers. They wanted to rattle you, he says. You did not break. Her laugh is small and a little bitter. I have been rattled by much worse than a man in an expensive tie, she says. Try telling a mother of the bride that the peonies she ordered are not coming because the shipment got stuck in customs. The corner of his mouth lifts. I believe you, he says. For a moment, there is something almost easy between them. Then the weight of the contract settles back over the table. About the gala, he says, shifting back into business. You will be introduced to journalists, allies, and people who would be very happy to see me fail. They will ask you personal questions they have no right to. You do not owe them anything but politeness. Nora nods. And you? She asks. What do I owe you? His eyes hold hers, steady and unreadable. You owe me what we signed for, he says. Show up. Stand beside me. Make them believe this is solid. He pauses, then adds quietly. You do not owe me your heart, Nora. That was never part of the deal. She looks down at the ring on her finger, feeling the echo of his words settle somewhere dangerous. Good, she tells herself. It is better this way, because even as she tells herself that, some small, reckless part of her is already wondering what happens to an agreement like theirs if one person breaks the unspoken rule. If one of them starts to want more than what the paper says they are allowed to have. The night of the gala, Nora feels like she is putting on someone else's life along with the dress. The gown is deep emerald, cut clean at the shoulders, the fabric heavy enough to hang in perfect lines. The stylist moves around her in quick, efficient circles, smoothing seams, checking the fall of the skirt. The necklace at her throat is borrowed, a thin chain with a single stone that catches the light every time she breathes. Remember, the media coach had said that afternoon, pacing in front of her with a clipboard. Head high, shoulders relaxed. When you feel attacked, slow your voice down instead of raising it. It is more unsettling than shouting. Now, in the mirror, Nora sees none of that control. She sees a woman whose heart is pounding against the zipper of her dress. There is a knock at the door. It is me, Damon's voice says. The stylist opens it. Damon steps in, already in his tuxedo, black tie perfect, cuff links catching the light. For a moment, he simply looks at her. His expression does not soften exactly, but something in it shifts. You look. He stops, searches for a word that is not inappropriate for a man who just signed a contract with her. You look exactly right. Good. Nora says, trying for lightness. I would hate to show up and make your board regret their investment. His gaze sharpens, hearing more truth in the joke than she intended. They are not the ones in charge of this decision, he says. I am, and I do not regret it. The car ride to the gala is short and quiet. Outside, the hotel entrance is a riot of flashbulbs and voices. A banner with the Sterling Foundation logo hangs above the doors. This event is supposed to raise money for community health clinics. It will also, everyone knows, serve as the first major public test of their marriage. As the driver opens the door, Damon turns to her. Once we step out, people will project their own stories onto us, he says. They will see what they want to see. Let them. We know the truth. Nora is not entirely sure which truth he means, but there is no time to ask. The roar of the crowd swallows his words as they emerge into the lights. Damon, over here. Who is the new Mrs. Sterling? Smile for us, Nora. The staircase up to the ballroom is lined with photographers. Damon places a steady hand at the small of her back, guiding her, not gripping. The contact is warm and unnervingly grounding. Inside, the ballroom is all gold and glass. Crystal chandeliers drip from the ceiling, tables glow with candles, and a string quartet plays something expensive in the corner. Guests turn as they enter, conversations pausing for a beat. A woman in a sleek navy dress approaches, champagne flute in hand. Mr. Sterling, she says. It is good to see you in something other than the financial pages. And this must be your wife. Nora Hayes, Nora says, offering her hand. It is nice to meet you. The woman's smile is smooth and curious. Juliana Park, she says. Reporter. Lifestyle and business. I am fascinated by your story. One minute you are arranging flowers. The next minute you are running a foundation. It is almost cinematic. Nora hears the subtext. Too much, too fast. I still arrange flowers, she says calmly. The petals are just slightly more expensive now. The work is the same. Juliana's eyes glint. And how does it feel? She asks, stepping into this world so quickly. Many people spend their whole lives trying to get a foot in a room like this. It feels like walking in through the service in trance, Nora says. Which is where I started. Doors are doors. What matters is what you do once you are inside. A small beat. Then someone nearby laughs. The genuine kind, not the polite one. Juliana tilts her head, recalibrating. I would love to schedule a longer profile, she says. Our readers adore resilience. Especially when it comes in an evening gown. We will see. Damon says, voice polite but firm. Tonight is about the clinics. He steers Nora away. As they move through the room, more people converge. Donors. Old money. New money. Some curious, some suspicious. She answers questions about the clinics, about why she cares about health access, about her father's illness in the broad strokes the media coach approved. It is when she is alone for a moment near the dessert table that it happens. Two men stand just behind a column, talking quietly. Their faces are familiar from business magazines. Investors. If this blows up, we are exposed, one says. The timing is too convenient. Grandfather dies. The will is read. And suddenly there is a Cinderella with a ring. The lawyers say the prenup is ironclad, the other replies. If she steps out of line, we cut her loose and spin it as a mistake. The market forgives a man for a bad marriage faster than it forgives instability on a quarterly report. Nora cannot move. Their words pin her in place. Prop. Buffer. Mistake. A server bumps her elbow as he passes, jolting her back into her body. She turns, intending to walk away, but runs straight into Damon's chest. What happened? He asks quickly. You look like you saw a ghost. Not a ghost, she says, swallowing. Just reality. He follows her gaze. His jaw tightens when he sees who is speaking. They do not speak for the whole table, he says. They speak loud enough, Nora answers. I knew I was a tool in this. Hearing them plan how to discard me when it suits them is something else. For the first time tonight, his controlled mask cracks. They will not discard you, he says quietly. Not while I am the one signing off on their bonuses. They forget that part. The string quartet shifts to a slow song. Couples drift toward the dance floor. Damon takes a breath, as if making a decision. Dance with me, he says. She almost says no. It feels too intimate, too much like the part of the job that is not on paper. But eyes are already turning. Cameras are already tracking them. Nora nods. On the dance floor, his hand is at her back again, his other hand holding hers. They move slowly, a careful orbit between the tables. From the outside, they probably look like every other wealthy couple spinning under the lights. I heard what they said, Damon murmurs. About cutting you loose. Do not apologize for them, she says. This is the world you warned me about. I am not apologizing for them, he answers. I am apologizing for bringing you into a room where people talk like that and think it is normal. She looks up at him. Why did you, she asks. Really? Beyond the will. Beyond the board. You could have found someone who would have smiled and swallowed it, and never told you how ugly it felt. His gaze holds hers, blue and unexpectedly raw. Because I was tired of pretending that the only way to survive in this world is to become like it, he says. You were the first person I saw in a long time who took a hit and did not bend yourself into a shape that would please someone with more money. The room narrows around them. The music blurs. That is a dangerous thing to admire in someone you only plan to keep for 12 months, Nora says. He does not look away. I know, he says. She feels the truth of that admission settle in her chest like a stone and a seed at the same time. The song ends. Applause rises. The spell breaks. They step apart, masks sliding back into place. Later, in the back of the car, city lights flickering across his profile, Nora checks her phone. There is a new email from the hospital. Balance, 0. Payment received in full. She stares at the words until they blur. Her father's life has been lifted off the edge of a cliff because of a signature and a ring. The cost of that rescue sits beside her, staring out the window, jaw tight. A man made of duty and distance who just admitted in the middle of a crowded room that something about this arrangement is starting to feel less like strategy and more like risk. The deepest secrets are about to change everything. Subscribe now to catch the dramatic twist that is coming in the next chapter. The next morning, the internet decides what to do with Nora Hayes. She wakes in the penthouse to the sound of her phone buzzing across the nightstand. When she blinks the screen awake, her notifications are full of headlines and tag posts. The foundation has released an official photo from the gala. Nora in emerald green, Damon beside her, his hand at the small of her back. Both of them turn slightly toward each other as if someone has caught them mid-secret. From banquet staff to billionaire bride, Damon Sterling debuts new wife at charity gala. A modern Cinderella story funds free clinics. The comments below are a split screen of praise and poison. She looks so genuine. Maybe he needed that. Please. She saw a chance and took it. Contract girlfriend energy. This will not last. Nora scrolls until the words blur. Her chest feels tight and hollow at the same time. She thinks of the investors at the gala, planning how to cut her loose if she becomes inconvenient. She thinks of Damon's hand on her back on the dance floor, and the way his voice changed when he said he did not regret choosing her. A soft knock comes at her door. Nora. Helena's voice floats in. Mr. Sterling asked if you are free this afternoon. He would like you to join him at one of the clinics. Nora looks at the screen one more time, then puts the phone face down. Yes, she says. I am free. The clinic is in a neighborhood where the sidewalks are cracked and the paint on the buildings peels in long strips. It is housed in a converted grocery store, the old sign still faintly visible under the new one that reads Sterling Community Health. Inside, the air smells like disinfectant and crayons. Children's drawings cover the walls. A nurse with tired eyes and a wide smile gives them a tour. Damon walks beside Nora, hands in his pockets, posture different from the way it is in boardrooms. Less rigid, more watchful. We were able to add an extra exam room after the last fundraiser, the nurse says. The wait times for pediatric appointments have dropped by half. A little boy races past them, cape made from a thin blanket flapping behind him. His mother calls out an apology, dragging an inhaler from her purse. We are very grateful, she says, eyeing Damon with a mix of suspicion and hope. If this place closes, I do not know where we will go. It will not close, Damon says, and for once his voice does not sound like a press release. It sounds like a promise. In the break room, over bad coffee in a chipped mug, Nora watches him listen to the staff. He asks for numbers, yes, but he also asks for stories. Where do families fall through the cracks? What happens when the grant money runs out? What would actually make their jobs easier? When the nurse steps away to answer a call, Nora leans against the counter. "So this is why you endure those investors," she says quietly. "This is what the board never sees. They think this is a line on a tax form. You know the names in the waiting room." He looks at her, something unguarded in his expression. "My mother worked 3 jobs and still could not afford basic care," he says. "A free clinic caught a problem before it killed her. Someone in a room like my board's decided to fund that clinic. She lived long enough to see me graduate. That is why these places exist." Nora blinks. He has never told her that before. "Does anyone on your board know that story?" she asks. He shakes his head once. "They do not need my childhood to justify a budget line," he says. "They need returns. That is their language." "And what is your language?" she asks. He is quiet for a moment. "Results," he says finally. "I want fewer funerals that did not need to happen." On the ride back, Nora watches him out of the corner of her eye. The world still sees an Ice King. She is starting to see the cracks in the armor and what lives under it. It scares her more than the cold ever did. At home, she finds a new message in her inbox. This one is not from a hospital or a reporter. It is an internal memo that Helena has forwarded by accident, still attached to the daily household schedule. Subject: Public Narrative. From Public Relations Director. To Executive Team. Early focus groups respond well to Nora's background story. It reads, "Working class to wealth. Emphasis on her father's illness and continued connection to ordinary problems." Suggest leaning into this grounding influence angle. It humanizes Damon and softens the perception of him as aloof. Monitor for any rumors regarding the prenuptial agreement or unusual terms. Our official line remains that this is a traditional union. Nora reads the paragraph twice. Grounding influence. Angle. Traditional union. She realizes that somewhere, on a conference call she was not invited to, her life has become a talking point on a marketing strategy. That night, she stands on the balcony while the city hums below. The air is cool against her skin. She wraps her arms around herself and stares at the skyline. Behind her, the sliding door opens. "You did well today," Damon says. "They like you at the clinic. They like what you fund," she answers. "They do not know how soon you almost lost the company to your cousin." He steps beside her at the railing. "Almost," he says. "The will is clear, but so is our contract." She thinks of the memo, of the phrase traditional union, of the investors talking about cutting her loose. "How many people know the truth?" she asks. "About this being temporary. About the terms." His jaw tightens. "Very few," he says. "My lawyer. Yours. Helena, because she manages calendars. The board knows enough to feel reassured, not enough to weaponize details. That is deliberate." "And what about the assistant who forwarded a memo she should not have?" Nora asks, holding up her phone. He reads the screen, then exhales. "That was careless," he says. "I will deal with it." She studies him. "You cannot control every leak, Damon," she says. "Every overheard sentence. Every curious person who sees a story in this." "I can try," he says. She shakes her head. "You can try," she says. "But at some point, this stops being numbers and clauses and starts being human. Humans talk. Humans guess. Humans sell secrets." For the first time since she signed the contract, she sees something like real worry flicker across his face. "I promised you your father's bills would stay paid," he says. "I promised your brother's tuition. I will keep that promise, even if the worst happens and this blows up." "You promised me privacy too," she says softly. That was in there, between the lines. They stand in silence, the city stretched out below like a circuit board. What neither of them knows is that 3 floors down, in a smaller apartment paid for by a salary from Sterling Capital, a junior staffer is scrolling through a gossip site. The first hints are already there. Blind items about a sudden society. Marriage with a suspicious timeline. Speculation about contracts and clauses. Somebody has started to pull at the loose thread of their arrangement. And once the wrong person gets their hands on the full truth, the neat line they drew around their hearts will not protect them from what comes next. 2 weeks later, the rumors grow teeth. At first it is just vague chatter online. Blind items on gossip sites about a mysterious wife with a suspicious timeline. Anonymous comments about prenup clauses you would not believe. Nora sees them, feels her stomach drop, but tells herself it is noise. People speculate about rich marriages all the time. Then the questions start changing. A reporter at a luncheon smiles too wide as she asks, So, Nora, were you surprised by how fast things moved? Some people say whirlwind romances are rarely just about romance. At a board dinner, Leonard makes a joke that lands too hard. I assume your lawyer has taken good care of you, my dear. Damon's prenups are legendary. Nora keeps her back straight, her answers calm. I prefer to focus on what we are building rather than what people assume, she says. It sounds smooth enough to pass. It does not stop the creeping feeling that somebody, somewhere, knows too much. One evening, she walks into Damon's office and finds him staring at his computer screen with a look she has not seen before. Not frustration, not anger, something tighter. What happened, she asks. He clicks the window closed, but not fast enough. She sees a headline in the split second before it disappears. Contract Wives of Wall Street. Are billionaire marriages just another deal? Her heart stutters. That is about us, she says. It is about a pattern, he corrects. Men like me. Feels like this. No names yet. No documents. But someone has decided there is a story in this kind of arrangement. Is there? Nora asks quietly. He looks at her, weariness in the set of his shoulders. There is always a story, he says. The question is who gets to tell it first. That night, she cannot sleep. She moves to the kitchen, bare feet on cold tile, chasing the comfort of a glass of water. The penthouse is dark except for the city glow. As she passes Damon's office, she hears his voice. No, we never discussed sending the document by email, he is saying. Hard copies only. If there is a leak, it is internal. Find it. He sees her in the doorway and ends the call. Did I wake you, he asks. No, she lies. The world did. He gestures toward the living room. Come sit, he says. They sit on opposite ends of the couch, a polite distance between them. From this angle, they both face the windows, the city lights thrown across the glass like scattered gold. When I signed that paper, Nora says finally, I thought the worst part would be pretending in public. Smiling on cue, ignoring the whispers about my motives. I did not think about what it would feel like when someone else tried to sell our truth without asking either of us. He rubs a hand over his face. This was supposed to be contained, he says. Clean lines. Clear terms. I manage risk for a living, Nora. I should have known better than to think I could keep something like this locked away forever. She studies him in the dim light. For all his money and control, he looks almost young like this. Tired. Human. What are you most afraid of, she asks. Losing the company? Losing face? Losing the board? He is quiet for so long she thinks he will not answer. I am afraid of them turning you into a punchline, he says at last. A symbol of everything ugly about this world. Gold digger. Contract bride. Whatever label makes them feel better about watching from the outside. The admission hits her harder than she expects. You cannot protect me from all of that, she says gently. I can try, he replies. Something fragile hangs between them. It feels dangerously close to the line they agreed not to cross. For a moment, Nora wants to tell him that the world has already started to crawl under her skin, that the names burn less than the way some people look at her now, like she is both lucky and cheap. Instead, she says, you did protect my father. And my brother. No article can take that away. He looks at her with an intensity that makes her want to look down and step closer at the same time. That was not charity, he says. That was payment for a job you were doing very well. She smiles without humor. Then, I hope they do not decide to fire me, she says. 3 floors down, that loose thread finally snaps. The junior staffer who saw the gossip item is having a bad night. He is underestimated, underpaid, and tired of watching partners in expensive suits make mistakes he could have avoided. On his company laptop, buried in a folder he should not have access to, sits a scanned copy of a very interesting document. Sterling_marital_agreement_final.pdf. He found it by accident weeks ago, while looking for something else. He told himself he would delete it. He did not. Now the gossip sites are circling a story he already knows the ending to. His cursor hovers over the file. He imagines the bylines. The attention. The leverage of being the source in a world that pretends not to know his name. A new email notification pops up from a freelance reporter he met once at a bar. The subject line is blunt. Off the record. Is there a contract behind the Sterling marriage? His fingers move before his conscience catches up. He attaches the file. He hits send. Upstairs, Nora finally drifts into an uneasy sleep in a room that is starting to feel less like a hotel and more like a home she is not allowed to keep. Damon stares at the ceiling in his own bed, listening to the hum of the city, making promises in his head. He has no idea how he will keep if the worst happens. Somewhere between them, in a server they will never see, their carefully crafted secret is already leaving the building. The headline hits on a Monday morning. Nora is halfway through making coffee when her phone lights up with a notification from a news app she does not remember installing. Exclusive, the one-year bride. Leaked contract reveals Damon Sterling's marriage is just a deal. Her hand goes numb. She taps the article open with the sick certainty of someone watching a train crash in slow motion. There it is. A blurred screenshot of the first page of their agreement. Her name. His name. The term, 12 months. Highlighted in yellow on the next image is the line that turns her stomach. The parties agree that this arrangement is a civil contract and not a romantic union. The article is vicious in its confidence. Sources close to the firm claim Nora's background was chosen to soften Damon's image. Anonymous insiders talk about risk mitigation and public narrative. Comment sections explode. She married him for money. He bought a wife to keep his throne. A foundation built on fake vows cannot be trusted. Her phone rings. Her brother. Nora. Matthew says, voice tight. I saw the article. Is it true? Every instinct in her wants to lie, to protect him. But lies are what put her here. Yes, she says quietly. The marriage started as a contract. The medical bills, the tuition, all of it is real. So is the paper. There is a pause. She hears him exhale. Did he treat you like a purchase? Matthew asks. Nora looks around the penthouse, at the life that grew up around that first signature. The clinic visits. The late-night conversations. The way Damon looked at her when he talked about his mother. No, she says. He treated me like a partner. The contract was supposed to protect both of us. Now it is being used to hurt us. By the time she reaches Damon's office, the building vibrates with contained panic. Assistants move faster. Phones ring without stopping. Security has doubled in the lobby. He is standing at the window, jacket off, tie loosened, the leaked article open on his screen. Valerie, his lawyer, is there, along with Leonard and Miriam. We can still spin this, Leonard says. We say parts of the document were taken out of context. We blame an overzealous legal team. We frame Nora as an unfortunate casualty of your pressure. If you announce a separation, the market will stabilize. You want me to feed her to the wolves and call it risk management, Damon says. It is damage control, Leonard replies. You can distance yourself. Say you made a mistake. The board will back you. Miriam's gaze flicks to Nora in the doorway. She sees the phone still in Nora's hand, the white around her knuckles. And what does Nora say? Miriam asks quietly. Nora steps into the room. Her voice is steady even though her heart is not. Nora says she is done being talked about like she is not standing here, she says. You all signed off on this. You loved the contract when it protected your money. Now that it is public, you want to pretend I was the problem all along. Valerie looks at Damon. Whatever you decide, you need to decide fast, Valerie says. There is already talk of an emergency vote. They will force you to make a statement. Damon closes the laptop. When he looks at Nora, his decision is already in his eyes. Then I will, he says. The press conference is called for that afternoon. Cameras line the back of a polished conference room. Reporters lean forward, hungry. The leaked contract is already being dissected on morning shows. This is the moment everyone has been waiting for. Nora stands just off to the side, behind a curtain of executives. Her heart hammers so loudly she can barely hear the low murmur of the crowd. Damon steps up to the podium. No teleprompter. No scripted statement in his hands. Just a few notes on a card that he does not look at. What you read this morning is real, he begins. I asked Nora Hayes to enter into a one-year marriage contract. I did it to satisfy the conditions of my grandfather's will and to calm a board of directors who were more concerned about optics than about the work we do in communities like the clinic you saw in our last feature. A ripple moves through the room. Pins scratch faster. I will not stand here and pretend that part of this story is a misunderstanding, he continues. It is not. It was a calculated decision. Mine. He lets that land. What the article did not tell you, he says, is why Nora signed. She did not walk into my office looking for a title. She walked in with her father's medical debts stacked against her, with a brother putting his life on hold to keep the lights on. She took a deal that promised to save her family, and she has never once asked me for more than we agreed to. He looked straight into one of the cameras, his voice sharpening. You are calling her a gold digger because it is easier than admitting the system pushes people into impossible choices, he says. If someone needs to be blamed for turning marriage into a transaction, blame the billionaire who put the contract on the table. That is me. Behind him, Leonard shifts, clearly uncomfortable. Miriam's expression is unreadable. A reporter calls out, "So is this marriage ending when the contract ends, Mr. Sterling?" Damon does not hesitate. The contract ends in 12 months, he says. But the document you saw is no longer our reality. He reaches into his inside pocket and pulls out a folded sheaf of paper. Even from where she stands, Nora recognizes it. Their agreement. He unfolds it, holds it up for everyone to see, then tears it straight down the middle. The rip of expensive paper echoes through the microphones. The legal safety net is gone, he says. There are no more penalties. No more exit clauses. If Nora chooses to walk away from me tomorrow, she leaves with everything I already promised her. If she stays, it is not because of a contract. It is because she wants to. Another reporter shouts, "Are you saying you have real feelings for her?" For the first time since he took the podium, Damon smiles. It is small and unguarded. "I am saying I broke my own rule," he replies. "I went into this determined to keep my heart out of it. Somewhere between the banquet floor where she took the blame for a broken tray and the clinic we visited last week, I failed. I am in love with my wife." The room explodes. Questions fly. Cameras flash. Publicists look like they might faint. But in the middle of the chaos, Nora feels something inside her settle. Later, in the quiet of the penthouse, away from feeds and headlines, she stands on the balcony with Damon. The city glows around them, uncaring. "You just risked everything," she says. "Your board, your image, your control. I have other companies," he says. "I do not have another you." She lets out a shaky breath. "When I signed that paper," she says, "I told myself I was renting a life for a year. I promised I would not get attached to any part of it. The windows, the clinic, you." She looks at him, really looks, without contract lines in the way. "I did not keep that promise," she says. His hand finds hers, fingers threading through like it is the most natural thing in the world. "Then maybe," he says, "we should stop pretending this is about perfect promises and start figuring out how to build something honest from a very messy beginning." Below them, traffic moves. Somewhere, people are still arguing in comment sections. Some will never believe this was anything but a deal gone rogue. That is all right. The people who matter already know the truth. In a small apartment across town, Nora's father watches the press conference replay with tears in his eyes. Her brother sends her a photo of the balance, 0 letter pinned to the fridge, next to a printout of Damon at the podium, mid-tear of the contract. Nora leans her head against Damon's shoulder, ring glinting in the city light. The year they agreed on is still ticking away on a calendar somewhere, but the story they are writing now does not fit into an expiration date. She did marry a billionaire for a contract. She is choosing to stay for a man. Thank you for joining us for this cinematic adventure. If you want more untold stories of billionaire love and redemption, please subscribe and choose your next true heart journey on your screen now.